Hi, welcome back. In this video, we'll be covering the idea of memory management when dealing with Contact Player. And the two topics we'll be covering are DFD, which stands for Direct from Disk, and the Purge menu right here. Now, in the last video, I hopped into Contact 4 just to more or less kind of give you a different view on things and to see that different interface. For instance, if you'd be using Contact Player 4, be able to see what it would look like on that end. But the main reason I've hopped back into Contact Player 2 again is because once Contact 3 and Contact 4 came out, they had what was known as the Contact Memory Server, and DFD became less of an issue. So I'm hopping back into Contact Player 2 in case this is what you'll be using. You'll know where to find things and how to adjust them. First, just a little bit of background about DFD. I'll bring it up here in the options menu. It's basically a technology that was developed by Native Instruments, and it allows a large amounts of samples and sample data to actually stream directly from the hard disk. And since modern libraries like VDL are pretty large, it's really not practical sometimes to load large projects completely into RAM. So loading to RAM will give you the most reliable instant access to the samples because RAM is much faster than your hard drive. So what DFD does is kind of helps it out, and it'll load a small amount of each sample within each instrument, like just the very front end of it. For instance, maybe on the right hand snare hit, it'll just load the very front end of that sample. Then once each sample is ready to be played or called upon, it will be instantly accessible from the RAM. So then the DFD kicks in and streams the rest from the hard disk. So it more or less kind of acts as a go-between between the RAM, into which those little bits of the samples are loaded into, and the hard disk. Now that we're in here in the options menu, you can see I've got mine set right in the middle. And the higher you have the set, as is indicated right here, is using more RAM. So if you have a smaller amount of RAM, you might want to have it down here. So more or less, you'll just have to experiment. There's not really any formula I can give you to keep from having clicking when it plays back and from getting memory warnings whenever you load the instruments in. So I'll just put mine right here in the middle. That seems like that'll be fine. But again, this is something you'll just have to experiment with to get it to where it's dialed in for your system. The one other item I want to touch on here is the Purge menu. Now, the Purge menu can come in handy in a few different ways and can be accessed in a few different ways. That is the Purge function. Up here at the top, this is just the global Purge function. And if you open up the menu, the main item that'll come in handy here is this update sample pool. And what that'll more or less do is analyze your composition and essentially unload all of the samples that are currently unused. And we'll actually make markers of all the samples that are used and unused. That'll come in handy, say if you're at the end of a piece and you want to make a recording and want to make sure you have all the RAM available to make that recording. That would be one thing to do. If you're wanting to go back and start from scratch and reset all of the samples that are marked that need to be purged or don't, we can come here to click the reset markers. If you want to unload all of your samples out of memory, you come here. And if you want to reload all, you can do that right here. Another place we can access the Purge menu is on an instrument level. For instance, here in the snare line manual, let's say that I'm done writing my snare line part, and I only want the samples that I use to be loaded. Maybe I don't use any of the cymbals being held by cymbals players, all those hi-hat sounds and such, and a variety of other sounds. I could just come in here and do the same thing. Do update sample pool. It'll unload all the samples I don't need. And I could go through the same process. If I wanted to reset those markers, could do that here. If I just wanted to get rid of all the sounds, could do that here, or all the samples. And if I wanted to reload, could do that here. So that's it for this video. In the next video, I'll more or less be giving you some pointers on where to find help if you need it. And after that, it'll be time to pick your poison. You'll choose either Sibelius or Finale, and then we'll get started using VDL in a notation environment. So stick around. We'll see you next time.